After many attempts, Dune has been successfully adapted. It was adapted before, but arguably that's not really good. It's not really representation, even though I've heard some positive reviews. Finally, the Dune 2021, after many delays, finally came out. Going to be a book versus movie. I did a book versus movie on the last Dune adaptation. Go watch it. It was a while ago. I will be talking about this new movie that came out. This is going to be a longer review because Dune is my favorite book. I'm going to be talking about the movie for the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then I will be going into the differences and the similarities and how this movie works out from this book. First of all, that was really good. I think this movie is more of an ode to people who really read the book. If you haven't read the book, if you're going into this thinking like I'm gonna like it, you'll like it. It does a really good job of entering the world, but I don't think you'll love it as much as something like Star Wars, just random going into the movies. This movie is for people who just love this book so much and they want to see it successfully portrayed on the big screen. Now, a lot of the negative reviews I've been seeing for this book are, this is so boring. I was bored out of my mind. And that's not really what it's for. If you're looking to be, thrilled, it's not a sci-fi thriller. That's what a lot of people misunderstand about Dune. That's what I get annoyed about, because they're like, oh, this is not fun. It's not supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be, addicting you to the screen. And it's kind of, childish if, you don't have the attention span for it. But that's just my opinion. And that's what I love about this book. It is so great that way, and that's why this book is more for the people who read the book. That's why every scene in this book, you can pause the movie and you can sell that pause frame as professional photograph. That's how well done it was. It's one of the best CGI I've ever seen in my life. It was always just beautiful. The acting was perfect and on par. I loved it so much. This was just really there. It really gets there of what it accomplishes. Now, again, I thought it was amazing. I thought this was beautiful. Every scene was just executed to the point. So good. So basically, my point is, if there's a chance you may not love it as much as I did if you're going into this totally blind. As I'm talking about it, I'm saying, I was watching with my brother and my dad. Both of them have never read the book before, and they liked it a lot. They enjoyed it, but they spent most of their time confused because that's what happens. It throws you so much world building because it has just as much, if not more, than every other sci-fi series you've ever read. Plus, it's just not as action packed. It's not as on the core action, because it's real science fiction. It's true to the core science fiction, and it's not just let's have fun in space. That's why Dune is that's why it's my favorite, because it's not trying to get you to these action scenes. It's not trying too hard to get you to love the action scenes, but it's also having action scenes just as much. It's being really on point. It's not rushed whatsoever, and that's what the movie did really good. It paced itself perfectly, and it wasn't rushing to anything. I noticed this when I was watching. This never rushed itself. It didn't rush itself. That's what Denis Villeneuve is doing good, because he's not trying to shove all that is Dune into one movie, because that's very smart. Because if you would, it'd be very compacted. And while some scenes were missing in this book, and since I'm just a Dune nitpick, I'm like, oh, that scene's missing, that scene's missing, that scene's missing. But still, he kept it slow. He said, okay, I'm going to split this movie into 2 parts. That's very patient of him. You can tell he's a fan of the book, because he does not want this all to be let's just get it out there. But he's it's showing he likes the book more than he wants it to do good, which I really admire about Denis Villeneuve. So that's why I love about it. It's not rushed. The scenes were beautiful. The action scenes really blew my mind. At the start, where Channing was kind of doing her voiceover, I was so happy, because I'm I've been waiting for a long time. This is the longest I've ever waited for a movie. Well, because it was delayed a year, and I was so hyped for it. I think that's why I loved it so much. No really movie I had to wait that long, or I cared so much about. Just maybe not even Endgame or The Force Awakens did that, which I did wait for a long time, but this is the one. This is the one that I waited for. I really wanted. This was my passion for Dune, and it finally paid off, and it did it perfectly. Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya do an excellent job. Then Zendaya is not the biggest role in this. She's not, like, I think she's going to be much more prominent in the next part, you know, because, like, she was at the very end when Paul meets the Fremen, and, oof, that was very, very good. Now let's go into comparing the book and the movie. This was a very good movie. It was very faithful, while I'm going to talk about their scenes that they didn't happen. Well, the book started off, like immediately Paul wakes up, Gom Jabbar scene. That's Gom Jabbar, and like if you don't know what that's, put your hand in the box, what's in the box, and then they say death. It's just like that. Like, that's basically the scene it starts off with. Now, the movie needs, like, more world building. Let's just kind of world build before, and if we throw someone in, again, their main problem was people didn't know what was going on for people who didn't read the book. And so they did a little bit more of that, whereas the book really does it excellently, because people who read the book, they get what's going on eventually, you know? They know what's up, but a lot of people, they remained confused. And I wasn't confused, so I did not experience this problem whatsoever. But again, I had to spend a lot of my time explaining what was happening. But yeah, so they start off not with the Gom Jabbar, but with a voiceover from Zendaya telling them what's going on. And yeah, that was good. I liked that change. It was a good change. And it was a good kid to do that. And they did have the Gom Jabbar scene. If I didn't see the scene in the trailer, I would be very worried, because it's not starting with the iconic scene is a bold move. It is still smart to do. And I do really like what they did, because they're trying to fix it, the fact that nobody knows what's going on. And that's their biggest criticism. But it's not stopping me from this being my favorite movie of all time. I had so much awesome time with it. I had so much amazement the whole time. I'm like, you know, and it still managed just to surpass my expectations. Another scene that was missing in here is the dinner party scene. A very iconic scene, but I get it. They're trying to make this for everyone, while Denis Villeneuve would like to make this as perfect as possible. He also needs to realize, like, he's trying to realize, hey, this is for everyone, and it's not going to be, oh, only Dune fans are allowed to watch it, other people are going to watch it, and they need the support of both. So he's trying his hardest to get the support of both. And they still fell a little bit short, but I would rather have him, I'd rather there be a book more faithful than the book than more appealing. Like, I would rather a movie, an adaptation to be just an ode to the book, like a take on the book. Doesn't need any explanation for people who read the book, because isn't that the real world? Like, that should be, like, the rule of adaptations, but they need to get more successful. They need to make money to make sequels, so I understand them choices of leaving out the dinner party scene, which was very iconic. They also leave out the part of Idaho being, like, a drunk one night on spice beer, what's it called? But they leave out some parts like that. What they did to Idaho was actually better than the book. That's what I love about it. What they did with Duncan Idaho in this, I admired and adored. Like, this Duncan Idaho was already one of my favorite characters to begin with, but this movie really hit a nail on the head with Duncan Idaho, and they portrayed him perfectly. I felt like he was really, really portrayed well, and he had an ending in this book whenever he sacrifices his life after Paul and Jessica have dropped off in the sand, and he finds them. You can tell he's devastated just as they are, because he's just as loyal to the Duke as they are, and he's super loyal, and I gave him more time. I don't think he had enough time other than him being a drunk, which is not a good scene for him. They cut that out, which I think is smart. And everything with Duncan Idaho is really, really perfect. And I loved it. They didn't get the Mentat enough time. Leah Kynes was a great character, and like the transition supervisor kind of walked with them. But again, some of these characters didn't get as much time as they needed to, like a lot of the Mentats. And yeah, that was really, really excellent. The Baron Harkonnen is really another thing they nailed. Last movie, the Baron Harkonnen, they wanted to make him scary. They made him scary by making him disgusting. And that was pretty juvenile, because they wanted people to be scared because he looks scary or he looks disgusting, which is supposed to trigger a scared feature, like a scared face. But like this time, they made him scary, and that's what I would like more time with the Baron. And yeah, it scared me a lot. And next, like that was really, the villains were excellent, even though there wasn't enough time. The scene with the tooth where Leto kind of like sacrifices himself to try to kill him. Him being in a coma, him being kind of like a cocoon up in the ceiling was gross, definitely, but it was more menacing. He was more menacing, and that's what they did better. Character they did not give enough time to was Fade Ralpha. Now I know he is more prominent in the second part of Dune, which will they be covering in the second movie. But I wish they would have established Fade Ralpha, because they didn't even mention the name Fade Ralpha. I think he's played by Dave Bautista. I saw him, and he was like the uncle, but like they weren't mentioned. He wasn't like they should have done a little bit more build up for Fade Ralpha, even though he was very menacing and the acting choice was amazing. And I just wish there would have been like more hints at what's to come for the next movie, because I know what's going to happen. Eventually, they're going to lead up to a fight, but kind of foreshadow, like that's what I would like. And like Gunray Halleck was amazing casting choice. He was very perfect, and all the fight scenes were great. How they envisioned it was perfect. How he saw the world of Dune came to life, and it's very clear what happened. Like, he loves the book. It's not like, oh, this looks cool, let me read it to just kind of see what's happening. He loved this book from a child, and his goal was to make this so perfect, and that's what I love about it. I think this is a Dune lovers movie. This is not everyone loves it, like Harry Potter. Everything blew up, and the movie, you don't even need to read the books or read the movies. This is not that kind of adaptation. If you love Dune, you will love this movie. Some scenes were left out, especially, and some action scenes were perfect, though. The sandworms were the most beautiful thing in the world, and that really amazed me, shocked me how they can go in the sand, how big they are. Wow, this was so beautiful. And at the end, where he meets the Fremen, was beautiful, and his fight with the Fremen, his infamous fight, it works perfectly. It's like he's never killed a man. Like, I could talk about it, but you can watch my Dune review for the whole, just like Dune the book, and you can talk about my feelings on it. But they adapted it perfectly. They made it, the visions were so just out there, and I could tell how they'd be confusing, especially the villains, especially the visions, like having random visions of things that never really happen could be confusing, and that's one thing that just confused people, like for people who have not read it. But like once you know what happened, you can tell him including that makes you understand that he loves a book more than he wants it to be successful, which is very perfect for a movie director. It's very abruptly. I wish it would have been like Aaliyah would have been born, and that's the cutoff, or like the 2-year time jump. I think, yeah, there was 2 years that stopped, and I'm pretty sure the next movie is going to take 2 years, and Aaliyah's going to be a baby. And she's also going to be talking, because, Aaliyah talks. And you can tell he sees the future. Timothée Chalamet did an amazing job. So that was my review for the Dune movie, book versus movie. I want to keep it short but sweet. It was very good. Definitely go check it out in theaters right now on IMAX. I cannot express this enough. Watch it in theaters, because you won't get the same experience as it would be in the IMAX or on the movie theater. That's my recommendation. I really hope you do. Go watch it. Again, it won't be as hard-hitting if you have not watched. It won't be as hard-hitting if you have not read Dune, but you would still love it, and I guarantee you it would still be a really good movie for you. So everyone if you have read the book or not, just go check it out. See Dune in theaters. It came out yesterday, but I watched it on the 21st. So see you guys in the next video.